And today we're going to talk about how to sell to different personality types. And a bit of my background, I think like most of us, probably a lot of us, our first job was sales. Some of it still is sales. I worked at Tip Top Tailors for 7 years. Then we moved to North Carolina. I worked for a newspaper in Rockingham. I sold newspaper advertising for a while. And what I learned from that is that you are always selling. I don't care if you're trying to discuss with your family what you're going to do for dinner, you're selling at that point. So really, maybe it shouldn't be how to sell to different personality types. It's more how to communicate with different personality types. Because I think that the principles go beyond just selling. Sometimes it's just so that you can be moving in the same direction, but you need to know who you're dealing with and what type of personality that person has. And obviously, there's a variety of different personality types, right? Your prospects with different personalities are as varied as their business needs, as it says there. So really the key is you have to be able to be flexible. You need to work with different personality types. You need to be able to optimize your sales presentation to reach that widest possible audience. And recognize that just because a person has a certain personality type all the time, if they're having an off day, that personality type may change, and you need to be able to adapt to that. You need to adapt to their needs, not necessarily just what works best for you, right? It's the customer that comes first. It's how to make sure that you are getting through to the customer in a way that they want to be communicated with. So in doing research, there's a ton of different websites out there, and essentially all of them boil down to 4 different personality types. And these are the most common 4 that I found. I like it because when you've got 3 A's and an E, it's easier for me to remember than 4 different letters that starts with. So again, we have assertive, amiable, expressive, and analytic. Somebody may be assertive on one day and they have an emotional event going on in their life, and all of a sudden they're going to become more expressive or amiable. You need to be able to adapt to that. What we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these different personality types. We'll talk about how to identify them, what to look for, and how to sell to them. Now remember, these aren't hard and fast groups. There's a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of overlap in each of them. And there's pros and cons to each of them. Some people say, well, I wish everybody was amiable. I think we're going to find out that maybe that's not always the case. We'll start off with assertive. So these people are goal-oriented and competitive, right? They want results, don't care about relationships. They're decisive, fast, and want concrete information. Don't go in and start off your sales pitch or your conversation asking how their family is and what's new in their world. They're not interested, right? They want to, let's cover the information. This is the type of person who's going to come in with a statement. They're not going to ask you questions, right? They're going to say, I want to know about whatever, or show me this product, or tell me why I should buy this product from you. They're going to be animated, right? They're leaning forward. They're gesturing while they're speaking. This is where the Mediterranean wife I have, she is assertive when she speaks. And generally, you're not sitting back, right? Again, they are coming forward. They're very assertive. And I'm sure we can all think of people who are like this. And I'm sure you've all interacted with people like this. So if you're dealing with somebody who's assertive, this is the interactive part of it. How do you sell to them? What sort of things should you be doing? Any ideas?
Meet them at their level, I would say.
Be prepared when they walk in. If you know that personality type, be prepared to just give them information, what they need to know to make a decision, and let it go there.
Right, so we've got be prepared. Damon said, speak to them at their level. That's true. Often, if you're going to be, you can't be passive when you have an assertive person. You don't want to get into a power struggle. but they will respect you more if you're meeting them sort of on their level. Any other ideas?
Talk about the goal and the purpose, and don't get so much into the detail from
Right,
the
so
get.
they want to know the end result, right?
Yeah.
How's this going to help me?
Give them the facts.
Right, just the facts. Here you go. So there you go. So yes, so you've covered them. Be over prepared. You know, this goes to Sandra's point and then some. Like, you want to have more aces in your pocket than you'll ever need, because you don't want to have to wing an answer. And coming from a communications, public relations background, if you don't know the answer should always be, I don't know the answer to that, but let me look into it and get back to you. Don't wing it. But again, somebody else mentioned, be efficient. There's that don't overdo rapport building. Again, they don't want to have a long discussion about their last family vacation. And Diana mentioned, tie the product features business results. What's the end result going to be on this? And then show how you provide that competitive advantage. Right? That's what's important to them, is end result, competitive advantage. Any questions there on assertive, or any comments on that? I'm sure we can all think of people that we've dealt with who are assertive. All right, so then let's have a look at amiable, which is in a lot of ways pretty much the opposite, right, of assertive. So these people value their personal relationships and rapport. They want to have that discussion with you. They like excitement of new challenges, trying something new. They're enthusiastic, right, about new solutions. These are the kids, when you went to school, when the teacher said, who would like to, that hand was up before the teacher had finished their sentence, right? Whatever it was, they're excited about trying something new. It's awesome. However, if you are a very structured person, you have to recognize that this type of customer often doesn't like a structured work style. They're going to take a little while to make some decisions. And they're going to want a consensus from everybody, right? Because they want everybody to be happy. So they need that consensus before they're going to make a purchasing decision. So that's something you have to recognize right away, is that you're going to have to allow a little bit of extra time with somebody who's amiable, if you want to get through to them on their level, as Damien mentioned before, where you need to interact with somebody on their own level. It means if you're in a hurry, you're not going to work well with an amiable person. You have to slow yourself down to meet their needs. These folks are really good listeners, and they'll be calm, friendly. They're going to sit back during meetings, and these are the ones they're going to want to know some personal questions and some answers, so that they can build that relationship, right? They're going to be the ones who, next time you see them, because you are going to see them many times, they're going to continue to build that knowledge about you, and they're going to want to know what's happened since the last time you saw them. So make sure you build that time in, and make sure you've got a little bit of a flex, because it's going to be a little more informal, right? You're not going to be able to stick to an agenda often. I work in social services. There's one other guy on my team. The rest are women, and they're all very amiable and social. Brian and I always have a bit of a contest on who can guess how long our team meetings will go before they go off the track, because somebody has taken that and they're now talking about, something outside of work. We go off on that tangent because it's all about personal stuff then, so we've lost the business thing. And we know we have 2.5-hour meetings because of it. It's fine. It's sort of the running joke between the two of us who are more, let's stick to the timelines. So again, just know this customer, know that they're that type of person, and be willing to meet them at their level. So how are we going to sell to them? What sort of things do you think, if somebody's amiable in personality, that they are going to want to get out of a salesperson or a rep?
Try to find a relationship.
Try to find a connection.
So I got connection. Sorry, Joanne, what did you say?
Mirror their enthusiasm and build a relationship with them.
Right.
Find a common trait in building that relationship. Find something in common that you can connect on.
Exactly. And another thing they're going to want to do is, again, they want everyone to be happy. So here, it's not necessarily about dollars and cents. It's about a better future. Right? This is, again, this resonates with me coming from social services. This is more what we're about. So yeah, it's how are we going to make things better? How are things going to look in the future? I think as you've covered there, get to know them on a personal level, because if you walk in and you ask them about their family next time, even if that's not your normal style, you're now on their level. They're more comfortable dealing with you and interacting with you. And an amiable person, you want to guide them. And I think the more passive you can guide them, the better. They're not necessarily looking for you to tell them the direction to go, but you need to be able to help steer that course towards where you want it to be. So it takes a bit of a soft, subtle approach. Sorry, Damon, did you have something?
I was just going to say that in my experience with an amiable client, it can be a lot more work than just giving facts to the assertive type. It's a little more of an investment, but they reward that with loyalty.
Yes.
You have a lot more margin to figure it out with them, and it doesn't have to be right out of the gate. They can help you find a lot more new clients because they want to tell people about the great provider they have. That's their nature. So they're a fantastic type of client when you can find them, which is increasingly rare in my opinion. But yeah, definitely something to think about.
When I was selling newspaper ads in North Carolina, there was a guy named Goldie. His last name was Golden. He went by Goldie though. And he had like a surplus store, right? Imagine like an Army Navy type surplus. And I would go in every Wednesday at 11:30. I went in before lunch because his sales call was always going to take a lot longer. He wanted to tell me what his grandkids were doing. He wanted to, give me the whole background. And so I never built that into a time when I had another appointment right after. I was always going from him to lunch, and I knew I was going to lose most of my lunch that day. But it's what it took to get through to that customer. And, he almost had it on his calendar, so to speak, that, 11:30 is going to be a chat with Brett. And it made him happy that way. And so when I came in Wednesday, he was also ready to go. Like the sales part was pretty much done. He already knew what he wanted. He was going to hand that to me as I was walking out the door. He just wanted to sit and talk for a little while. So if you know that customer and you can be that sounding board, that shoulder, whatever for that customer, you're going to make the sales. All right, so our next type is the expressive type. These are the creative, outgoing, and spontaneous. They may or may not have a filter on what they say, not mentioning any names, Chris.
Yep. Loud and clear.
But they really value mental respect and loyalty, and that's what's important. A lot of times you see somebody who's really creative. They may, they're out there. They may be very different. They may dress differently. They may act differently. It doesn't mean that they're not smart, brilliant business people. And just because they're not wearing a suit, tie, and sitting in a boardroom doesn't mean that you shouldn't respect them and be loyal to them. So sometimes, you think about, these are the artist type, right? That you think, oh, they're sort of fly by night, willy-nilly, but they're not. So don't ever put that idea in your head. Respect them and be loyal to them. And they're more concerned about often the group, right? How are these decisions going to affect everybody around them? And they're very have strong convictions, and they're very loyal to those people around them, right? I think that's why you often see, sort of these artsy types, in common communities, because they work so well together. If you happen to watch that show on CBC, Still Standing, last night was a great one from Bear River in Nova Scotia, and this artist community. And it's like everyone does. I think there's no government there, but they just all work together to make sure everything gets done. And they're all, everyone who was there when I was watching a show last night, I was saying those are all expressive people. If I was selling to them, they are expressive people. They're enthusiastic and colorful. These people also are going to want to bond with you on a personal level, right? There's a type, hey, give me a call sometime. Let's have a chat. Unlike some other people, though, they are going to be more sure in what they want. So they're still going to give you those, this is what I want, instead of, can you show me? So declarative sentences instead of questions. Does that make sense on expressive people? So then how do we sell to them? Any thoughts? This is probably sort of in Damon's world, I'm thinking too, where you have, imagine, or if you're selling to Damon, would he be an expressive person? What I found, the expressive people, they talk about case studies. They don't want to just see facts and figures. They want to see how things work out in other people's experiences, and they can relate that back to themselves. Remember back here we said that they're respect them and be very loyal. Don't make offhand commitments. Yeah, I'll get to that. No problem, I can do that for you. Because if you can't deliver, that relationship is gone. And this is, let's face it, this probably goes across the board to everybody. You should never, break a promise, because that can severely damage a relationship. But with an expressive person, you're probably not going to be able to come back. They want to know how features and benefits are going to change their day to day. So if I'm Sean and I'm going in to sell Chris a new toner for his printer, he doesn't care about the fact, Chris won't care about the fact, if he's an expressive person, that this toner is more cost efficient, or it comes in a nicer box or whatever it is. Chris is going to want to know, how's this going to affect me day to day? Sean says, this is going to give you such brilliant color for your brochures that the pictures you take are just going to pop, and really it's going to make a difference. People are going to be able to visually see that. That's how an expressive person would want to hear why they should buy this toner. And then you frame the sale an ongoing business partnership. Again, loyalty, right? They don't want a one-off. They don't want to fly by night. They want this to continue for some time. And again, this is where I really thought of Damon when this came along. Don't rely on numbers. You got to tell a story. When you're selling rebranding, there's no good numbers for that. It's going to cost money, and you're not going to be able to often show or guarantee that this is going to bring back a return on your investment of X number of dollars. It's all about the feel, right? This is what it's going to make people think about your business. This is how it's going to make you appear to your peers, whatever it is. It's the emotional thing. So that's where the expressive people want to hear a story. Does that make sense?
Right. Can I give you an example of one of my contractors in the?
Absolutely.
Sure. So the contractor that actually did the work on our home is actually the contractor I still use to today. And one of the things that he said to us was, I don't want to just build this house for you. I want to build your next home. I want to build your cottage. I want to do work for your friends and your family. And that was one of the reasons I thought, oh, so this guy's not going to be leaving us anytime soon. He's not going to leave us high and dry. So there was an immediate, that's really when I look back over 10 years of knowing him, probably made it stick for us. Still use him today to do all our jobs. So.
Right. And it was one statement that made that difference for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So let's move on to the final personality type, which is analytic. It works out rather good. We can down talk analytic all we want now because Bill and Tim aren't here.
Yes.
But, these are obviously, if you're in accounting or financial services, you're the type of person who's going to love data, facts and figures. But if you're selling to this person, they're going to ask a lot of questions because they want data, facts, and figures, right? They do as much research up front as possible. They've definitely researched your company, and they've likely researched you. You're not going to be the only person they're going to talk to either. They're going to talk to multiple vendors, and they're going to be very logical and cautious. Once they have all the information, then they're going to make their decision. But because they put so much work into that decision, the odds of them changing their mind afterwards and going somewhere else are pretty slim. They've done all their research. They're making the best decision based on facts. So it's going to be tough for them then to move on somewhere else because they know it's not the best decision. They've already done all that research. So very similar to the assertive person, right? They're serious, they're direct, formal in meetings. They want facts over emotion and small talk. They're going to probably ask a lot of questions to get a lot of information. Now, when I worked in the corporate world, one of the first things that one of the directors told me going into a board meeting was he said, don't ask a question unless you already know the answer. And that's, I think, an assertive person. Odds are, if they ask you a question in a meeting, they already know the answer. They just need to hear it from you. An analytic person may ask you the question, but they may not know the answer. So hopefully you've been able to figure out which one it is. Now, hopefully you're giving the same answer regardless, because it should be a factual answer, but just know that the analytic person is truly looking for information. They're not looking for confirmation about what they already know. But don't kid yourself. By the time they make a decision, they will know the answer to all of the questions, and they're not going to make a decision before they know an answer to all of the questions. So if we're selling to an analytic person, again, work on their timelines. This is another person, kind of like the Amiable, right? You can't rush them. They need to know all the answers before they're going to make a decision. You can assume they know the basics, right? They've done their research. They just need to know the fine details on what specifics about a product or a service are involved and what differentiates you from your competitor. If you can provide data, awesome. And again, no 35,000-foot claims here. They want some detail. These are detail-oriented people. Don't force a report if there isn't natural chemistry. Again, they're about the facts, figures, and details, not the personal relationships. So again, everybody probably falls into one of these 4 personality types, and that personality type may vary from day to day, person to person. It may vary depending on the product. If I'm going to see Tim about life insurance, I may be able to walk right in and be an assertive person. Tim, I want a 30-year term policy for $200,000 with my wife as the sole beneficiary, period. But Tim, I also want you to help me invest. And all of a sudden now I have a lot of questions I need to ask you because I don't really know that. So I've gone from assertive maybe to analytical. So it's not only the person you have to read, but the situation or the product. Now, luckily for most of you, if you're selling the same product or in your business, you're interacting with that person for that same product or business every time. So it may not vary much, but you never know. So just be aware of that. Again, be flexible. Learn to adapt as much as you can to meet them on their level. Your sales will resonate more often with them. And over the course of time, Joanne already mentioned it, you can take these long-term customers and you're going to find them move more and more towards that amiable. Even the most assertive person, if you're working with them for 10 years, you're going to get to know about their family. So you're going to be able to swap over a little bit more towards amiable, but recognize that they always have a little bit of assertive, a little bit of expressive, a little bit of analytical in there. And that's where you have to focus your energy. So quickly, I decided to try and figure out Who would I put where?
Awesome.
Now, I, again, could see in different situations, different people being different places. But overall, I think we've got a pretty good balance in this group.
How do you know this is correct?
I don't. But this is my first impression.
But
Right?
are you working towards having a balance, or it's your read on us?
This was just my read. Now, there's some people that I could see, any one of them, I could see somebody switching over in a given situation and being very assertive. You know, I could see Chris being very assertive if, you know, he has a certain camera that he wants, right? But overall, he is an expressive type person. Damon, I could see being a very expressive type person. But I also know that if he knows what he wants, he'll say, this is what I want.
You can get your customers to do one of those tests before you meet with them.
Yeah, that'd be ideal, wouldn't it?
Here, do this test. So I know how to sell to you.
But again, I think this is very fluid. And I think that goes back to the earlier point I made, that these are very, you know, there's some overlap, there's blurring of lines and everything. It's more of a Venn diagram, right? Where you've got a little bit of everything in there, and you're going to fit somewhere into those categories.
Okay, so let me ask a question. Does everybody feel like they have one of those types that they're stronger in or strongest in? Or does anybody feel like they're not really sure what they are?
As in how we feel what we are,
Yeah.
or stronger with selling to a certain type of personality?
No, who you are as a person. Do you identify immediately with one of those four?
Yes.
Yes. You know, Grant and Shelley did that presentation where we did that disc thing.
Oh, the color?
Yeah. And it is, the thing is called disc, and these 4 categories are part of it. So it's really cool, actually. And like you said, Damon, it's like you can, when you know what your type is, and then you're dealing with a different type, there's different ways that, for example, they call it a direct, or the assertive person would have to deal with the amiable person. So yeah, it's very, very good techniques, because really, if you're a certain type and you're very direct, and you're too direct for a certain other type of personality, maybe they'll be, you know, they will be turned off or whatever. So this is very good technique for working business, for sure.
Yeah, and to Diana's point, I don't think that there's anything that's really new here for anybody. You all in business, you all sell, you all communicate. But sometimes it's just a matter of reminding yourself to take a step back and recognize where other people are, and, as Diana just said, how you can best interact with somebody of that personality. It can make all the difference in the world between succeeding in sale or creating a relationship or not.
And yeah, and even though we kind of do it inertly, I think it still is beneficial to look at your current client roster and sort of run them through this and go, oh yeah, so that guy, he keeps sidetracking me with his cottage stories or whatever, and then you recognize that maybe I need to adjust that technique for him. Or that girl who's like, I have no time to talk about what you're doing on your weekends, I need to be a little more direct with her. So I think it's super valuable, even though it is kind of, you know, we are entrepreneurs, we are, you know, business owners, we have figured this stuff out to a large degree naturally, but having it kind of succinctly delivered like this helps tremendously.
And you know, having that little tickler file, especially if it's somebody that you're not interacting with on a regular basis. I always like it. My dentist is fantastic. You know, I see him, you know, every 6 to 9 months. And when I sit down with him, he'll ask, you know, how was your last trip to Tennessee? Because he goes down to Tennessee and has a motorcycle and likes to drive the Dragon's Tail run up there. And he knows that I have a condo in Gatlinburg, so he wants to talk about that. Or he'll ask, how's your daughter doing in Ottawa? Like so he has always taken a little note from the previous time so that he knows when you come back. So because he's definitely an amiable type person, which is good as a dentist. But if you have that little bit of a relationship, it puts the customer at ease and makes them feel comfortable. And again, it may be an ace in the hole. You may not have to use it. If the person comes in and there's let's get down to work, boom, you don't need to use that. But if you have it ready to go just in case, it's a valuable asset. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, sorry, one more thing. I think that we also put on personality type for our clients as well. We're not always just reading them. Sometimes we're giving them information. So, you know, it's funny. I think Chris wants to come across as expressive because that's what he thinks his clients are looking for. You know, and your dentist wants to come across as amiable. Doesn't mean he is. So I think that I relate to a lot of the stuff in these slides because I'm kind of chameleon-like when I deal with my clients and giving them what they are looking for. But that's not necessarily who I am. Like, it's funny, I would probably self-identify more as analytic, which I think would surprise a lot of people. And that's sort of the furthest from what I present sometimes, but that's really what I do is I break everything down and dissect it and figure out why it's working and how I can make it better. So I think,
Damon, sorry.
Yeah.
Finish your thought.
You know, I think we give people what they want sometimes as well, even though it may not be what they are. My client can be very assertive sometimes and be looking for results in marketing, but I can't necessarily go to that level with them when they need to believe they're buying somebody who's very creative and has a vision. So I would take on an expressive personality type, even though that's not theirs. I know that's what they're looking for.
That's such a great point. That's a very good point. And I think that's the mastery of sales. Sorry, Joanne, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I had a client that was actually in the analytical category for a very long time, for a few years. And then she switched over a little bit, started asking more about your family and how they're doing, and then remembering points from last time. So it's interesting how you're right. People can jump from one category to another. But I would have definitely categorized her as an analytic originally.
Mm-hmm.
So there's pros and cons to all of them. So it's not necessarily that, you know, assertive or analytical is bad and amiable and expressive is good. It's just different personalities. And as long as, I think, to be successful in business, especially as an entrepreneur, you have to have that flexibility that Damon mentioned. You have to be a chameleon and be what your customer wants you to be. And that can be a real challenge, especially with a new customer figuring that out. I'm having quite a laugh watching Damon and him doing some work with our organization, because I know both people, and I can see that both people are trying to figure out the other people, and I don't think they've figured them out quite yet, because the person Damon's dealing with comes across as very, okay, all right. And if she says, okay, all right, that could be awesome, that's fantastic. Or it could be, okay, all right. Okay. But she has one level. and so if you're looking for someone who's expressive, you're not getting it. She's not assertive. And I can see how Damon's trying to figure her out. And at the same point, she's trying to figure out how to work with Damon. So it's interesting when you can see both sides, because I think Sandra was making the point earlier too, talking about, is it how you see us as a person or what type of person we want to sell to? You have to be able to see both sides and recognize where each person is there in order to be successful. And that's going to take a little bit of time with any new relationship.
You know what? I should pull up that test. It was a one-pager that Grant, maybe I'll ask him to share it with us all again. And what was really neat is you have a dominant one, and then you have another one. Like out of the four, we all have a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. And as time progresses, or depending on the kind of job you're doing, you know, that your personality, like you said, Damon, can change or progress from that sense. But you have whatever the underlying personality that expresses itself, whether you like it or not, basically. Right? But it was really neat to see, like mine was assertive and expressive, but the dominant one was assertive then expressive. But doing the job with finance and mortgages, the analytical part over the last few years has become really dominant as well. So you could, like you said, we just have to learn how to use them all with the right people. So I want to just share one quick story. Is a really good friend of mine. She's a director, and she is also assertive and a director in her personality type. Oh my God, it was the hardest thing to do her mortgage, because I'm thinking, though I know she's very direct, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to show her all these benefits, and I'm going to da. And she was just ripping into me. She just wanted it done. She didn't even want to hear the benefits. I don't like this bank. I want this bank. And she didn't want to know about the interest rates. She didn't want to know everything. So every time I was trying to show her, again, but bottom lining it, it was agitating her to no end. So yeah, so even sometimes when you know what a person is like, so anyways, just want to share that. So.
So true, Diane. It just depends on the client that you're looking for. And I find that my best ones sit in the analytical and assertive, because they make the decisions, they trust you to do your work, you provide that, and boom, it's a done deal. Whereas amiable, expressive, no, that's kind of where I need to be sitting, but I need to tone that down and become more assertive and analytical in order to sell to those people, because that's what they want. They want, as soon as they make the decision, don't give them any other options. It's done. Boom, check.
Yeah.
I find it more challenging selling to somebody who isn't sure what they want, especially in my field, because it can be anything, right? The end result can be anything. So they know what they don't like. They don't know what they like. And I'm sure that resonates with you, Joanne. You've seen that client before. So that's the biggest challenge for me. And rather than trying to be analytical and nail them down to it, I have to take a different tack and say, all right, well, let's talk, like explain to me, and be more, probably amiable, I guess, to say, let me understand it and get you to verbalize it more, because I'm not picking it up from what you're asking for, which is kind of fighting, fire with oil. But, it's got to work out one way or another.
Help
Excellent
me
job.
help you.
Excellent job, Brett. It's funny that I helped build the slides and I was still like captivated. I was like, ooh, what's coming next?
I think Brett put us all in the right categories.
I'm not sure.
No, I'm pretty.
Keep
He's.
in mind, it's tough because I don't see you guys all at work. So I see
That's true.
Diana, she's talking often about music and, the arts and, so very expressive. Whereas if I was going for a mortgage and I saw her, I may see a totally different side of her. So I'm doing a little bit of guesswork there.
Yeah, Brett, I just found out today you were in Carolina. Like, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See?